Welcome back to another episode of Panel to Panel. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at a new series from Top Cow Productions called Vindication. Vindication is going to take us on a wild ride, and I think it's going to be something that you enjoy. If you like crime stories and murders with a twist, then this one's for you. The first issue jumps right in with the release of Mr. Washington after 10 years in prison. He was convicted of murder and sentenced to life, only to be released because it was determined that the evidence used against him was not conclusive. Bad DNA evidence, they said. This is something that has begun to happen more and more in the real world. As technology advances, our once solid cases have been shown to have a few holes in them. As Washington's leaving the prison, he's greeted by the detective that put him there. You could say that their relationship is a bit aggressive, to say the least. In the time that it takes Turn Washington to get to his ride, Chip, the officer involved, began to assault him. Luckily for Turn, the whole thing is caught on film. Not a great start for the supposed good guy. However, this issue does do a good job of showing how strongly Chip believes in the guilt of Turn, even 10 years later, and he's going to prove it. Later in the issue, we learn that there's been a murder of a juror for Turn's case, and obviously Chip suspects that something's up and somehow Turn is involved. We get a good feeling that Chip is just a crooked cop with an agenda to lock away Turn without giving him a chance. If they push hard enough to make me believe that Chip didn't frame Turn, then he is somehow being set up by somebody else and they're pushing Chip in that direction. The story really makes you want to hate Chip because of his demeanor and the way he conducts himself, but it's easy to see why he's emotional. The scene in the house of the murdered juror has some interesting points, one of which is a note that Chip pulled off Turn in their scuffle earlier in that day. It seems as though he's going to plant it at the scene and try to make a link between Turn and this victim. He plays it off as mishandled evidence so that he can make sure his fingerprints aren't found on the item. The note contains the victim's phone number. The issue ends with an internal affairs investigation being opened up on Chip for his incident with Turn, and he's taken off the case of the murdered juror. Chip also receives a mysterious phone call alerting him to a package in his car with the evidence he needs to link Turn to the murder. Everything we've seen so far points to Chip being a crooked cop, although I don't think he's quite there yet. He does do some very strange and unprofessional things, but he seems to do them in a sloppy way. Could just be he's a bad cop, and since he's convinced of Turn's guilt, he feels compelled to prove it by any means necessary. This mysterious person who called about the evidence also seems to have an ulterior motive, as well as a lot of information on Turn and the juror, Miss Turner. Things even the police didn't know yet. All of this leads Chip down a big rabbit hole. He might even just be a pawn in a much larger game. This series is titled Vindication, and right now it seems like Mr. Washington is waiting for his. We'll see if he gets the justice he's looking for, or if there's something else at play. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button down below. Consider subscribing for more great content just like this.